All right, guys, so I am super excited today to talk to you guys about 10 books that I've read that really influenced my financial knowledge, and that's really helped me in my journey. So I'm going to go over them and explain to you what they were, what I got out of them, so that it could help you also in your life. Okay, so I'm going to be going over the books. There are going to be 10 books, and I'm not going to put them in any order. Like I have a pile here, I'm just going to go through them and one by one and just go over them, what I got out of them, and yeah, just review what impact it had on my life, and what I was able to get out of them, so that you can get something out of these books as well. I've read a lot of books about finance, and the reason I had to read a lot is just because I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't have any background in finance, so I had to really study it, learn it, master it, get good at it. And so I did a lot of trial and error. I sometimes I used to learn stuff, and I had to like really test it out to see if it actually helped me or not in my real life. So one of the first books that I read, it was this book. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so, as you can see, the condition of this book is it's pretty clean. There isn't any scratches or anything on it. And it's because like when I read this book, I read it actually online, and I didn't buy the book. I found a copy of it online, and I read a PDF of the version of it. So and then after reading it, I just decided that I wanted to read it. I wanted to have a copy of it, physically. So I ordered it online. So I never read this book physically. I read a PDF version, and I would read it at like during break times at work from my computer, and like it was one of the first books that actually really helped me change my mindset about like what I thought about money, and how to accumulate money, how to be able to hold on to money, and then how to be able to invest it. So and like this book, it's a very basic book. It's written in a very easy format. Anyone, even like teenagers, can read this book and understand it. It's very simple. There isn't any like complicated words. It's very easy to understand and read. So if you're just getting into finance, I highly recommend reading this book. It will really open up your mind, and help you get thinking, start thinking about investing and finance and what it actually is. So in this book, Robert Kiyosaki talks about 4 quadrants, and he talks about the first quadrant, which is being an employee, then being self-employed, then being a business owner, and then being an investor. And he says that throughout life, people get to move from one quadrant to another, and the more that they move up, the higher income that they get. So starting off as an employee, you move to self-employee, you might be able to make more money, then you become a business owner, so you're still working in your business and you're earning an income, and then finally the last one, it's an investor, where you're actually not working in the business, you're working on the business, you just have money, you put it in, and you let it grow. So, and he says, from this book, he says that being an investor will help you get the most amount of money, because you're not working for dollars, you're not working for money. So as an employee, you have a certain amount of hours that you need to work, and based on those hours, you get a certain income. An investor, well, you use your money, and then with leverage, you're able to grow more money. So that's like the summary of the book. Basically, I learned that employees make the least amount of money, and investors make the most amount of money. And he just showed it in a practical way. The name of the book is called Rich Dad Poor Dad. So basically, he grew up very young, and he had 2 mentors. So he had his original dad, where basically he was a teacher, a school teacher. He earned a really good income. He was an employee. And he worked for educational system, and he earned a lot of money. So but then he had this other his friend, his father, who was also influencing Robert Kiyosaki when he was younger. He had a lot of money, he didn't have any education, and basically he was an investor, and he had all these like businesses, he had all these properties, and basically he would be being influenced by both. But Robert, he was more interested in earning a lot more income, so he would take knowledge from his rich dad, which was his friend's father. So basically, by analyzing both systems, he was able to come up with a system, the 4 quadrants, and basically map out, which one has the most income, like we went over, saying that, investor makes the most amount of money when you invest properly. What the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not. So it is about education, and you're just educating yourself about how money works, what money is, and how it flows in and how it flows out. So this is a really good book to read if you're just starting out with finance. You want to learn how to make investments, how to grow money. And so he goes over a couple of stories, which is really interesting. I would recommend anyone starting out their financial journey to pick up this book and have a read at it. Okay, so the second book we're going to be reviewing will be the 4-Hour Workweek. This book had a really big influence on me just because it created belief. It created belief that I could actually do this. Like he goes over like principles and rules and how to make it actually realistic. He goes over a story of how he had a business. It was about like some vitamins he was selling online, and basically people would purchase these these vitamins online, and basically he would only need to work a couple of hours during the week just to verify how many sales there were going in or if there was any trouble. And yeah, he just went over the process, how he automated the entire thing. And he also mentions, how to find other people to work on your business. And he has a lot of, good stories in this book. Just to make it realistic, it's also a really good book for resources to find. I know when you're starting out a business, you need a lot of resources to like go and search for things. Well, this book, contains like how to, find contractors, like how to, like what's the benefit of hiring them, what tasks you need to put them on. And basically like it's a really good book for starting a business, but also like if you just want to open up your mind to actually make this feel realistic, like I would recommend reading this book. Both these books, with Rich Dad Poor Dad and the 4-Hour Workweek, both of them, they weren't very rich, right? They didn't grow from families that had money. They built their wealth. And it was just fascinating reading both these books and their stories. Once again, I really, really recommend reading this book. I was mentioning that I was reading this book as a PDF, right? So when I was working, I used to work in a call center, and in between when we weren't receiving any calls, I would open up the PDF and I would read, Rich Dad Poor Dad, because I wanted to learn and consume as much knowledge as possible. So like I didn't want to waste any time. So in between not receiving any calls on the phone, I would read these financial books. So in between calls, I would be reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I would be reading the 4-Hour Workweek. And at work, we were allowed to read. Okay, we were allowed to read, but I was just embarrassed of reading in front of my friends because I didn't want them to think I was like, making a plan, to become wealthy and just reading about all these books about finance and like money and stuff. I just didn't want to be like, I just didn't want people like to look at me like, hey, why is this guy studying money so much? Like, what's his deal? So at work, I was so motivated to learn about finance because I wanted to change my financial situation. So what I would do at work, I would take my work manual, okay? I would take my tablet and I would put it in between my manual. And on the outside, it would look like I'm reading like my work manual, but in the middle, I would actually have the tablet with PDF version of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I would read it, right? And I didn't want my friends on the side of me, to know that I'm reading these books, because I didn't want people to like, figure out or find out that I'm reading about finance. I don't know. It was just embarrassing because we all worked in a place that, we were paid okay, but I was reading about like all these like millionaires and like how to make $1 million and, how to attain freedom and all this, 4-Hour Workweek stuff, right? So a lot of people like, they didn't believe in that and they didn't think it was realistic. So for me to read something that's unrealistic, it's like, hey, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to quit job? So I just didn't want to get into that conversation. So basically I would hide and read. So that was for Rich Dad Poor Dad. For this as well, I tried the same thing. I try to hide it, like I would like read it like this. I would read it like, with facing down, and I would just like go through it, and then people would ask me, hey, what are you reading? Why are you reading about finance? Why are you reading about money? So yeah, that was my journey. So I started reading these books about finance very early on because I just wanted to learn and, gain as much knowledge as possible. I would highly recommend anyone starting their financial journey who wants to earn more income. I would highly recommend reading these two books as a starter guide. So the next book I would recommend reading would be Awaken the Giant with Tony Robbins. And this book was really good too because this really helped me open up my mind about not being afraid to invest. Not being afraid to invest. And like for everyone that's familiar with Tony Robbins, he talks about a lot of like doubts, and he talks about beliefs. Those are like some of the things that he talks about, doubts and beliefs. And basically this book teaches you how to like take away your doubts and how to start believing in yourself. So, and this is a really thick book, so reading this took a long time. And so I remember reading this wherever I would go. I would get the chance. Like if I was flying in an airplane, if I had any free time, I would just be reading this book because I wanted to consume as much knowledge as possible. Initially reading this, I didn't think it had any knowledge about finance, but once I started reading it and I started learning, like it was very helpful. So he talks about like investing, and he talks about actually like investing regularly. So he talks about investing in like every month you need to set aside a certain amount of money from your income. So whenever you get a paycheck, you take a portion and you put it to the side, and you can't use it for investments. It's like taxing yourself. So how you receive your paycheck from your job, right? You get net income, but before it was net, like you got taxed on it, right? So he says in this book, so you should do the same thing. You should tax yourself. So when you're receiving money from your job, tax yourself and put it to an investment account. That way you could only use that for investments, and the rest of it you use it for your daily expenses. So this book actually opened that concept up about like dividing your income into portions and then using that the investment portion to actually invest it and actually accumulate more wealth out of it. Like he tells stories about people in the past, when they had beliefs, they doubted themselves. What did they do to take them out of the stage of like doubting themselves? So this is also a really good book. It takes it takes a bit of time to read it, but if you go on YouTube and actually just watch some of his videos, like his videos actually explain all the concepts that are in the book. Something that I realize is like everything in the book is also all the same knowledge he has in his videos. So you just like, if you want to consume it in a book, it's right here. If you want to consume it in video, he has it on YouTube. It's free. There's a lot of videos about Tony Robbins on YouTube, so there's a lot of knowledge out there. But I mean, if you just want to have some quiet time and read, this is a really good book to do that with. This is Tony Robbins' second book. And it's about money. So this specifically is about money. It says, Money, Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom. So he talks about, these 7 steps that if you apply them into your life, you'll have financial freedom. So in the first book he wrote, he had a bit of he talked a bit about finance. In this he actually goes in more depth, and what he does is actually goes and interviews people in the world who are actually millionaires, who have accumulated a lot of wealth. Some of them are even billionaires, and he asks their strategies. What did they do to accumulate this wealth? And he interviews all these people, and then each person that he interviews, he notices that all these people, they have very 7 similar steps. And basically, in this book, he just talks about those 7 steps, what they are, and just to give you like an overview of what those 7 steps are. Basically, it's just about like taking your income, putting it. Once you receive your income, making sure you're dividing in different portions, and then using the some of the amount to live, and then using some of the amount to invest and make more wealth out of it. So yeah, he just goes a bit more in depth in this book compared to the first Awaken the Giant book. The next book I want to review, this is actually a pretty funny one. I had a really good time reading this financial book. It's called How to Get Rich. And he says over here, so I'm just going to read the title. It says, one of the world's greatest entrepreneurs shares his secrets. Hint, you'll never get rich working for your boss. So I had a really good time reading this book. Most of these financial books, they're I wouldn't say like they're not entertaining. Most of these books, they're very like educational, right? So if you're very motivated, it's very easy to get through these books. But sometimes like if you're just reading them for a long time, you tend to get tired. But this book is super entertaining. Like the way he thinks, the way he says stuff, super funny. Very funny guy. So he was actually a homeless person, and I believe he's British. He's a British guy. He was homeless. He didn't have any money, and basically he talks about his story, how he went from being homeless to very wealthy. Yeah, so he just explains his story. Like one story that he was explaining about. I don't recommend you guys do this, but I'm just going to explain the story. He says that he was homeless, he wanted to make money, so he decided to sell newspapers. But obviously he was homeless, right? So he didn't look like the best person to approach to be able to sell newspapers. So what he did is he hired two women that would just hold up the newspapers and magazines and sell on his behalf. So he would get magazines, he would give it to these women. These women just would walk around and then just try to sell these magazines to other people walking around, in public transport, and just like near bus stops and train stations and all these areas. They would just walk around, and it would be easier for them to sell the magazines than him. So he just started giving more and more magazines to these women that would sell for him, and then he would pay them and he would keep the profit. So very cool and very funny and entertaining book about finance. He teaches a principle of like, so a lot of people might not agree with this, and that's okay. But he teaches a way of not sharing any profit with anyone, like not to have any business partners, and just like making sure you hold on to the ownership of the company. And he says that is the most important part of making sure that you get very wealthy and very rich, is making sure that you own 100% of the profit and ownership. So he really emphasizes that in this book, and he says that's one of his secrets of actually being able to make sure that he holds on to a lot of wealth. Whether I agree with that or not, well, that depends who you're working with, right? If you have a good business partner, then it would depend, right? But he just said his secret was that he held on to most of his wealth. He didn't share it with anyone. None of his business partners, he didn't partnership with anyone. He just held on to it, and he was able to accumulate the most amount of wealth. Okay, so that was it for this book. This really helped me. It's Rental Properties Investing. The book. So Brandon Turner, he has a podcast called The Bigger Pockets. Yeah, exactly. So I read this book because initially I wanted to invest in real estate, and like I knew a lot of people. Like reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad influenced me to actually get into real estate and try to buy some investments that could produce cash for me. So then I started really reading a lot of books about investing. So this is one of the books that I read, Brandon Turner. And yeah, it really gave me a good insight of like actually what it is to be able to own a property, get income from it, and how to use it to get more investments and more properties and really have a big portfolio of real estate investments. So I haven't bought any real estate yet, but this really gave me an overview of like how to do it and how to take the first step, and how to take the first 10 steps. Because he actually shows you a process of like buying one and then doing that 10 times, and then basically you could become a millionaire if you just did this one step 10 times. So and he says that it takes about 10 years to do that, and explains it in this book how to do that. So this was really good. I have another book about real estate as well that I read. And that book, I'm gonna actually like get a picture of it and I'm gonna post it here. It talks about rental income as well, and actually what I really liked about this book is that it broke down every single expense that you can have owning a property. So someone like me who has never invested in real estate, I'm not sure what I could come across. So that book really helped me. It gave me, like all these expenses, like he said, like insurance, like all these like roofing costs and all these like plumbing, and so a lot of these things that I don't think about, that I wasn't aware of, like he just really helps me analyze what expenses you can come across and how much actually of a cost you can come across when you invest in real estate. So it was a really good book. That book, I read it a couple of times. I still use it now. That book, the way it influenced me was like I was able to take that same mentality of like taking an asset, okay, taking an investment and breaking down the expenses, because sometimes we think that's only cash flow. We only look at that, but you also need to focus on the expenses. Where are the expenses? What are the expenses? What's costing you money? How much of your profit is getting minused by these things. So now I took that mindset and principle and I applied to a lot of other investments that I make. It allows me to really look at the profit, but also look at the expenses and see how those expenses are, decreasing my profit or helping me, get a bigger profit. So I'm able to evaluate that because of the small details I read from that book. So that was another real estate investing book that I really liked. This book was really good. What I learned about this book, this is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. He's an Indian guy who was not very wealthy. And basically what he did is, from this book, what I learned was how to do automation. And what I mean by automation is like automating your expenses. He actually teaches how to do it. He taught me how to do it. So, and basically what I mean is how he taught me is like, he told me you can actually call your bank and request this service. I didn't know that. No one educated me on this. So when I read this book, and he's in America, and basically he said that you can do that in America. I'm in Canada. I tried it in Canada and worked. And basically it was just saying that you can automate paying your credit card bills without you having to do it manually. And he said, it will just save you a lot of time, right? So first, I never used to do it because I used to feel like I'm in control by controlling to pay my bills. But I realized once I did it, I was still in control, right? It's just that I was controlling. Actually, it was like kind of like liberty, because it was just one less thing that I had to focus on and think about. When I automated my expenses, I knew that I was making a certain amount of income, so I would have obviously enough to pay my expenses. So I didn't need to always look at every time, make every payment manually. So what I did is once I automated my expenses, I would just check over to view that I was actually paying the right amount for each bill. And I did that for a couple of months, and then when I realized there was no errors, everything was going fine, then obviously I would check it less often. So he talks about also a lot of concepts about like different areas where people take advantage of you. And he talks about like when you get out of school, your first job, most companies they try to low pitch you with a low salary, because they know you just finished college, so you're gonna have a lot of debt, and they know that you're motivated to get a job, so they can pitch you with a very low salary. So he talks about how you should be able to negotiate a higher salary based on the research that you do in the industry. So he teaches about also interviews, like when you go to an interview and you want to present yourself and try to negotiate a salary, how to do that. So this book was also very helpful. I really enjoyed reading it. It's a very practical someone who's very practical and just finishing college and just like a normal guy. This book is someone for you who's really a normal person, a normal guy, like an average person, I would say. Just looking to make a bit of money. And like, he doesn't teach you to be a millionaire. He teaches you how to be able to hold on to the income that you're getting from your job and how to maximize that. So it's a really good book if you have a job, if you're trying to get into a new job, or if you're just trying to move around, I would highly recommend this book. Okay, so this book, oh my God, So the story behind this book is, it's called The Automatic Millionaire. It says, a powerful one-step plan to live and finish rich. So do it once, the rest is automatic. I love this book. This book really helped me automate, everything that I did. Like, he really breaks it down, like why you should automatically get rich and how to automatically get rich. And he breaks it down, like basically, like, we spend a lot of time trying to like do stuff, like it's the same, like it's very similar to this, but this one's like, this book was like mostly for people who are in a job and who are just trying to like, get a bit more money. This one is like really there to give you the mindset of an investor, right? Investors, they automate a lot of different things about their finance so that they can go out and get more investments and then automate that as well. So the main goal behind this book is to help you automate a lot of things, expenses and investments, everything. So when you do that, that just gives you more time to be more creative and to acquire more wealth. And what I really liked about this book is just how simple it is to read. You're able to get through this book actually pretty quickly. It's not very complicated. It's not very complicated, concepts. It's very simple, very basic. He has a picture of, two chairs on a beach, relaxing, right? That's a concept, right? Like, acquiring wealth shouldn't be very complicated and a lot of manual tasks. Like, yes, you need to work for money, but there's a certain time that you need to use that money to be able to make it work for you and accumulate more wealth for you. And this book is really good. The funny story behind this book was, like, when I was trying to acquire wealth, like, I was very shy. I didn't want to tell people that, hey, my goal is to become a millionaire. It just, I don't know, it just has a very bad, I just felt like I was going to be judged when people would think, hey, you're trying to make money. Like, why can't you just, work a normal job and just get by life and just be okay and average. So when I would read these books, like I said, I would be very shy. So this book I actually found in a used store. I was working at a shopping center and I had a lunch break. So I went to this store and I went in the books section to see if there were any interesting books. And I saw this book. I got it for a few dollars, I think like $2 or $3. And I was like, oh, Millionaire. At that time, like when I was when I was really hungry and accumulating wealth, I still am. But when I was really hungry reading books, anything that said Millionaire, I would read it. So yeah, when I went inside the store, when I found the book, I was like, oh, I gotta get this book. It's very cheap too. It's like $3 or something. So I grabbed it and I was like, wait, I can't go to the cash and just buy this book alone. Like, the cashier, she's gonna see it. So what I did was like, I was like, oh, let me just buy something else so that I can just like have this book and something else so that, maybe she's gonna be distracted and she won't see the book. And so when I went to the counter, I put the book facing down like this so that she wouldn't see it. Oh, it's kind of embarrassing because like I was trying to hide the book, and so she scans the book like this and then she picks it up and she reads it. She's like, The Automatic Millionaire. She's like, and then she says to me, oh, so I won't see her anymore. And I was like, I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you're gonna read the book and become a millionaire. So she made me laugh, and like, she helped me get over the fact that it was okay to become a millionaire. It was okay to read books about becoming a millionaire. It's not a crazy idea to think you're a millionaire. It's okay. So that joke really helped me like calm down and like say, hey, it's okay to read books about finance. If other people find out, maybe it might encourage them. Like, it's not a big deal. So hey, man, just relax, read this book, have fun, go out there and acquire some wealth. So very nice of that lady to make that joke. So thank you. Okay, so this is the last book I have on my list, and like I mentioned, I didn't put this in any order. I just had a pile and I'm just going through one by one. So this book was really helpful. This book helped me realize that there's people in the world that are not always looking to help you acquire wealth. There's some people in the world that want money from you, and because they have their own personal goals. They have their own mission, right? So their goal is to take money from you and put it into their pocket. And that's exactly what you see in this picture, right? It says someone trying to pickpocket you, take money out of your pocket. It says everybody wants your money. And you know, I think this too as well, I bought from a used store. I picked it up, you know, just like randomly. I was trying to read, you know, some financial books. I had a break and went to the bookstore and got this as well. So this really opened up my eyes. What grabbed my attention for this book was actually this picture and someone trying to pickpocket, and I wanted to protect myself. I didn't want people to, you know, be able to pickpocket me or steal money from me. And he talks about 4 areas where people try to take your money. So the first he talks about when you first get your job. When you leave university and you go for your first job, you know, people take advantage of you because you don't have experience, and so they offer you a very low salary. So that's the first time. The second time he talks about when you try to buy a house, you know, if it's your first house, like people are gonna, you know, because you won't be as educated, you won't have that experience, so people are gonna take advantage of you purchasing your first house. So be careful. And you know, he talks about some things, how you can, you know, help yourself by acquiring that knowledge and being better prepared. The third thing he talks about is when you purchase a car. He talks about, you know, because salespeople, when they try to sell you a car, you know, they want to keep the most amount of profit. So if they find out that you're just a first time home buyer, well, you know, they're going to have more experience than you, so they're going to be able to take more advantage of you. And so once again, in this situation, you also need to be aware where even if you're the first time home buyer, you need to be really well educated, because if you're not, well, you know, these salespeople, they will actually take your money from your pocket if you are not prepared. And it's happened to me. You know, the first time I actually went to a dealership to get a car, you know, the salesperson, you know, actually took money out of my pocket. I actually had this experience, and it was a terrible feeling. And so that's the third area where, you know, people can take the most advantage of you if you're not educated. So be careful. And the fourth is, he talks about home improvement. If or any contractor that you bring to the house to do some work for you, any professional technician or anyone that you want a service from, and if you're not very familiar with what the price is and what, you know, how much it costs, you know, they could take advantage of you. For example, if a plumber comes in and they give you a price of $1,000, but if you're not aware that it costs like $200, well, it's an $800 loss. So he says, you know, you need to make sure, once again, you know, educate yourself in this process, you know. And he says, like, the way you can do this is like, just remember some of the, you know, complicated words that plumbers use, for example. Be able to use that while you're talking to, you know, this technician, so that the plumber actually acknowledges that, you know, you're knowledgeable and that you have, you know, some knowledge about this, so they can't just overcharge you in this you know, service. So, you know, it was a really good book. It really helped me, you know, be prepared for, you know, these situations. Like I said, sometimes you can be prepared and sometimes you can't, just depending on, you know, not everyone has the best intention. And basically he just clarifies that, you know, not everyone has the best intention. And you just need to be aware, even though you have the best intention and you want the best for everyone, you know, you need to protect yourself. And this book really helps you actually understand that, you know, everyone is on the mission of acquiring more wealth because they want to have a better life. And some people do it in a good way and some people don't. But either way, you should be careful. You should look out for yourself and protect yourself. And he says that these 4 scenarios is the situation where people are taking the most advantage of. So educating yourself is the number 1 way of protecting yourself and your income and your wealth. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, there's one more book that I don't have here. Oh, yes. So there's one more book that I really enjoyed reading. It's a book that Tai Lopez actually recommended that I read. It was in one of his videos, and he talks about how to invest in stocks. And basically in this book, he talks about, this book talks about basically what the, how to read a financial statement of a company. Most of these things about finance, they're kind of boring, or they're dry if you're not motivated to learn this, and they're complicated. They use very complicated words. But this book, I'm going to show a picture of this book. It made it very easy for me to understand about companies, about income, expenses, cash flow, liabilities, all these complicated terms that you've never heard of. Well, in this book, they explain exactly what it is, and they actually show financial statements, how to read them, how to take the knowledge from one statement and how it's translated to another statement, how it works together. It's just basic how to understand a company and the health of the company. So most investors, before investing in a company, they have access to these financial statements. Once they read these financial statements, they know the health of the company, and they realize if it's healthy to invest or not. So they do this by reading the financial statements. So this book explains very simply how to do that. So that book also really helped me start investing in stocks. So that's it, guys. Those are the 10 books that I read that helped me change my financial situation. So I hope that you guys can also read these books and it influences you guys, and also motivates you to change your financial situation. Changing your financial situation, it should not depend on always relying on experts. You guys need to invest in yourself, and you need to educate yourself. Reading books, they're just a couple of dollars, $10, $20, $30, right? And it takes time. It takes money and it takes time. So putting those two together, invest in yourself, right? If you learn something from a book, let's say you spend $10 on a book, but the knowledge that you acquire, it could maybe help you make $1,000 or $10,000 or even $100,000. Well, isn't that a good investment? Look, investing in yourself is the best solution for changing your financial situation. So these 10 books really helped me. All the financial knowledge that I gained were from some of these books, but I also had some other books that I read. I watched a lot of videos, I listened to a lot of experts, and then most importantly, I took this knowledge and I applied it, right? You can understand these concepts, but they're not as powerful as when you try them out and actually learn from them. So when you learn, you make mistakes. It's okay, make small mistakes, make big wins. My final advice that I would like to give you guys when you are trying to acquire wealth is first build your income, then build your lifestyle. Don't get into the habit of, purchasing a car, purchasing a house, because when you do these things like that, you get stuck, right? Because you're earning a certain income, right? Then if you have a house, if you have a car, if you're buying all these fancy clothing, there's high-tech technology, well, then you can't invest. You don't have any money left to invest. So my first tip that I would like to suggest you guys to do is first build your income. That means, take a portion of your income. You obviously, put it on the side for your expenses, and expenses that are actually necessary, and then the rest, use it to invest. That could be books, that could be courses, that could be just anything, you can put it in stocks, you can put it in real estate, just anything that gives you money, cash flow. The more you invest, the more it grows, the better financial situation you're going to have for yourself, the more less stress, you're going to feel less stress in your life when you have that much money accumulating on the side. So once again, the final tip I would like to give is build your income first and then build your lifestyle. Don't get influenced in building lifestyle. And right, so that was my final tip. So building income first and then build your lifestyle. That's the most important thing. So if you're making $3,000, bring it up to $10,000. When you have $10,000, then you can start buying things, like maybe a fancier car, a better house. But, in the beginning, just make sure you're paying for your expenses and the most amount of money you're putting into investments, because the more you invest in yourself, the faster and the quicker you'll be able to accumulate more wealth, more cash, and more investments, and then you'll be able to live the lifestyle that you want. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed that. I want you to let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these books, and if there were some books that you haven't read and I introduced them to you, if you're going to be reading them. And also, if you have any more recommendations for me or anyone else to read books about finance, I would like you to mention them in the comments below, please. All right, guys, so please give me a thumbs up. This took a lot of time, but I just do it for you guys, to also share my knowledge, and I want the same impact in your life. If you found this video helpful, I would like you guys to subscribe so that you keep getting more of this knowledge. You keep acquiring this knowledge, keep implementing it, and keep getting wealthier. So remember, guys, one last final time, build your income first and then build your lifestyle. That's it for me. Talk to you guys on the next one.